No, I'm happy that you're here. Guys, if you don't know Alex Durant, you need to get to know her. Follow her on Instagram, her social media. She's got a lot of good information. She is the sponsorship queen. She is so good at this stuff. This is what she does professionally. When we don't know how to do it, call in the pros and you're going to be in great hands. She loves events and relationships with her clients. She has done this work for year over year, and she is the professional that we're bringing in today to talk about unlocking event success and mastering the art of sponsorship synergy. So I'll let Alex talk about herself a little more and the services that she brings. She brought in a lot of examples for you guys to see. We sprinkled in a little bit of Auctria to show you how that would work on the tech side. But Alex, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lori. So as we all know, events are happening all around us. You know, there's galas, there's fun runs, there's conferences, there's festivals, there's retreats. So, and as Lori said, for the last 15 years, I've been hired by large scale festivals across the country to manage their sponsors. So I take care of everything soup to nuts, from the first intro into the planning stage, into the on-site, being there to be their customer service rep. I've worked with over 500 brands whose sponsorship fees have totaled over about $25 million to date. So I've seen firsthand the impact of successful partnerships, not only for the event and the sponsors involved, but also for the guest experience. So it should come as no surprise to this group that there are many benefits of incorporating sponsors into your event. You know, that it not only increases revenue, but can offset costs. You can enhance the consumer experience, and just can be a huge boost in co-marketing the event. So I know Lori can talk to how that can be integrated with Auctria here.
Sure. If you haven't poked around on the Auctria sponsorships dashboard, this is your invitation to do so. You can go ahead and put your sponsorships up on your website using the Auctria platform. That way sponsors can go to your website. The cash registers are open 24 hours a day. They can choose the sponsorship that's meaningful to them. You can also go ahead and post your sponsorship catalog in there so that they can look through. You can post a PDF. In addition to that, you can, on your event website, recognize those sponsors with their logo. You can link to their website. That way there's a lot of additional value that's included in those. So like I said, if you haven't hung out on our sponsorship page and looked at the integration that's already in there, I encourage you to do so. It is high value feature that encourages sponsors to say, yes, I want to be a sponsorship. Alex is going to talk about the strategy behind that, but just know that you already have the technology to pull this off.
So I've taken the best practices from all the events I've worked on to master the art of sponsorship synergy. The first concept is simple, yet, went too fast. Yet it depends on what type of event you are producing, such as the ones mentioned before, you know, all these conferences and galas and festivals. But a high-end brand such as Chanel might be a great fit for a gala, but not necessarily a 5K fun run. But Tito's Handmade Vodka could work for a gala, a golf tournament, or a festival, because their brand identity applies to a wide demographic, and therefore the brand rub is in alignment. Now, what do I mean by brand rub? For me, this is the concept that the personality, the values, and the popularity of your event rubs off on the brands that associate with it, and vice versa. So you need to really ask yourself, who or what do I want to be associated with? Which companies and brands really make sense for my event and my mission? Does their target audience align with our target audience? So once you embrace this brand rub, this sponsorship synergy falls into place. With this concept in mind, it makes sense that the National Star-Studded South Beach Wine and Food Festival, which is a festival I've worked on for 20 years, relies heavily on wine and spirit sponsors. But they also bring in a lot of other lifestyle brands that fit the culture of the festival, such as Capital One as their credit card partner, the New York Times, American Airlines, BMW, Crystal Cruises. The festival and these brands have the same target audience and rub off on each other in a balanced way. So no matter if we're talking about a charity gala, a wellness retreat, or a business conference, the sponsors need to make sense. As much as everyone is peddling for sponsors these days, you shouldn't just take anything you can get. And why do I say that? Because not every brand is the right fit. I was managing the wine sponsor for a celebrity dinner in which the tickets cost about $350 per person. There was a world-renowned chef that designed each course, and my wine sponsor crafted the wine pairings, and they even flew in their winemaker to address the guests. Once the reception was over, the guests were ushered into the private dining area to take their seats. As they sat down to a lovely menu and place setting and tablescape, it was quite a surprise to see a bag of potato chips at every table setting. This just did not make sense. But I know that bag of potato chips came with additional sponsorship dollars that were just too enticing for the executive team to turn down. But did it make sense? Was it a natural fit? Not at all. So considering the concept of brand rub, I think the chips diminished the value of this dinner. So did it make it worth it for that guest experience? Had this been a lovely little box of chocolates or a take-home biscotti for the guests to enjoy the next day, still could have had the sponsor name on it. They would have taken that home and had that sponsor impression later on after the dinner. So sponsors can be integrated into any sized event, but if you're the event host or the event producer, it's important to really identify what sponsorship real estate that you own that can be sold as a benefit. Now, for me, your real estate encompasses not only the physical space on your event footprint, but also your marketing assets, your program of events, and any other items that can be sponsored. So you have to look at each aspect of your sponsorship of your event through a sponsorship lens, just as you would when you're planning the production aspects. Let me see, so you're looking at, so I'm looking at the sponsorship real estate. I'm going to look at several primary event components to identify this real estate. For instance, what activation space do you have available, which is the actual physical space on your floor plan? So this could be as simple as having room for a basic table setup, such as an exhibit area or a tent, or in a space in the lobby of the reception. Or you could have a larger space, such as this custom footprint that Aquapanasa and Pellegrino brought in with a little cart. It's more of a little small scale activation, or a branded bar where you're featuring a sponsored beverage. You also can consider a large scale activation. If you have room, this would apply to like a larger scale festival or trade show, trade type event, where you have space for a custom build out, such as this Grey Poupon. I think this was like a 20 by 20 tent, or this other big bar footprint that was not only served cocktails and beverages, but also had a little photo op activation. So another aspect of your sponsorship real estate are naming rights at your event. You need to look for specific event elements that can be underwritten by the sponsors. This could include the cocktail reception, the dessert lounge, a dedicated session, or even an exclusive party. These opportunities allow sponsors to associate their brand with a distinct, often high-profile part of your event. So you can also think about title rights versus presenting rights. Many events offer title rights where the sponsor's name becomes part of the event's official title. For example, Durant Consulting's 5K Fun Run instead of just the 5K Fun Run. This offers the highest level of visibility for sponsors. Alternatively, presenting rights positions the sponsor as the event name presented by the sponsor. So it'd be the 5K Fun Run presented by Durant Consulting. Once the contract is finalized, the chosen naming convention will be consistently applied across all platforms, including on your website, in print ads, social media, and all verbal mentions from the stage and elsewhere. This is going to provide your sponsor with the maximum exposure. Got a few examples here. One thing you could do, just the dessert area could be compliments of XYZ company. Picture a real estate company underwriting this aspect of your gala. They could have their logo and the cupcakes and cookies shaped like homes or sold signs. Think about that as a takeaway. It's like much better impact than them handing out flyers from a 6-foot table. You could have a lounge sponsored by a local company or a national company with signage promoting the partnership and allow them to do the branded decor. I've got a sample here. Having a delay in my clicking.
Do you want me to move it?
I got it.
Okay.
These samples, they did some branded pillows. They added their logo to the cocktail bar. You also added, all the sponsors. It was like the Gold Belly Green Room presented by. So a lot of ways that you can incorporate sponsors into smaller areas of a larger event. You can also do naming rights with stage branding. You see this was FoodieCon presented by Instagram, or the Bacardi presented this large stage at a music festival. Well, that means everyone watching, every performer throughout the entire festival weekend saw their logo at the top of the stage, and we're talking 30,000 people per day or more. So, and then everything that was streamed on the live stream, their logo was included. Another way to incorporate sponsors is to be the presenting sponsor, which we talked about. So this was, Absolute presents the drag brunch. And then we created this big video wall stage backdrop to really give a maximum exposure for their sponsorship. Sometimes you might be willing to basically sell your event as a whole takeover by a sponsor. Barilla was the title sponsor of this pasta or Sunday supper party at the South Beach Wine and Food Festival. So in addition to their branded activation space that you see here, we also included all of their logo and icons for the pasta shapes throughout the venue. So they had, these tabletop lights that lit up at night with their logo on it. They had gobos of lighting on the ceiling of the main tent. They had little lounge areas you see they look like fireworks, but they're actually pasta fireworks. So and then once the contract was signed, as I mentioned before, from then on, every time we referred to this event, it was Barilla Italian Bites on the Beach. That was on the website. That was in the print ads. That was on all social media. Every time someone said the event title out loud from the stage, their name was spoken. Major, major impact. Another part of sponsorship real estate is your marketing assets and logo inclusions. And I know everyone obviously thinks about logos first thing off the bat, and you're gonna include the logos on your website, and possibly by tiered level. And you're gonna probably put the logos in your program or on a thank you sign, that's prominently displayed at the event. We've all seen this. We've probably all done this. But I also recommend including sponsor logos on smaller touch points, such as, the bar, if there's donated product, or even if there's just tray passed items. I mean, look at the difference between here comes your guest entering your gala. Their first thing they do is they're being offered a glass of champagne that's probably from one of your sponsors. Are they taking it off of a tray as a no-name glass of champagne, or is it with a branded tray card that really recognizes the sponsor who gave you that champagne? It just really adds another touch and synergy with the sponsors. Additional benefits, obviously, now thinking on a larger scale with marketing, is looking at what you have that you can provide that gives ROI to your sponsors. So maybe, are you willing to put sponsor ads on your website? Or do you distribute an e-newsletter in which a sponsored ad or a story or a special offer can be included? If you have social media channels, you can leverage dedicated social posts or small mentions or tags for your sponsors. Would just recommend be cognizant of how many of these you give out, because you don't want to clog your feed with sponsored posts. Plus, you have to deliver on all of these contracted promises. The next piece of sponsorship real estate is direct engagement with the consumers and talent. So what opportunities do you have? Maybe you're hosting a conference or a retreat. Sponsors could be offered an opportunity to take the stage and give a brief speech or give a keynote, or to present, or they could even present a dedicated session to your retreat members. Is there an opportunity for them to present an award at your event? And that could be a branded award. They sponsor the prize. They've got the large check. They get to go on stage. Again, that direct engagement with your consumers. This is going to really amplify their partnership with your event and your attendees. So these are all unique opportunities for sponsors to get direct access to your audience. And technically, if you think about it, these options cost you nothing versus giving out comp tickets or comp tables for your event, which in essence diminish your bottom line for event ticket sales. So sponsorship real estate also includes in-kind donations. If anyone's hosted an event, I'm sure you're all familiar with this aspect. I really talk about, what expenses can be replaced with in-kind donations. Don't just take a bag of potato chips because it's free. Do you need the bag of potato chips? So these are items that don't generally come with a sponsorship fee associated with them, but they should be budget relieving, help you cut costs. Maybe it's on food and beverage or production needs. Maybe the DJ is willing to donate his time and his equipment. Maybe it's fruit for a snack break, branded yoga mats for a wellness retreat. If you're hosting a gala and need champagne flutes for the reception, maybe a sponsor is willing to donate the flutes with their logo on them. This is cost saving for you, since now you don't have to rent the flutes. Both the event host and the brand team can also brainstorm on additional ways to be organically integrated into an event. They're mutually beneficial to boost the brand and to enhance the consumer experience. Interactive elements are a great example. I was working on, again, another large-scale wine and food festival. It was an Asian night market theme. We had a sake sponsor. They were pouring their sake at the bars. But then we worked with the event manager and said, what else, would be a great integration with this brand? And they came up with the Sake Minaki ring toss. Here's all their bottles on display. Guests got to do the ring toss. It was a fun, interactive element for them to do, and it gave this sponsor another piece of exposure and interaction with the guests instead of just pouring glasses of sake. Photo ops are another great way to include sponsors. They also add decor to your event. You know, in this age of selfies and social media, this is a great asset to sell to sponsors. As you see here, Absolute, they brought in these beautiful flowers and feathers. And I mean, you wouldn't believe the line for people just to take a photo sitting on a black couch. But, you know, what was in the background of every single photo? Their logo. Then we have this awesome champagne tower. The bottles were empty, but it was just a great decor piece for this large scale event. So once you've identified your sponsorship real estate, now it's time to craft a compelling sponsorship proposal. So this should include an overview of everything you have, in an overview of your event, all the event data, so it's a compelling evidence for your prospective sponsors. I'd even use historical data from previous years. If it's a new event, you know, just try to identify who your target audience is going to be and the expected attendance. A few items I suggest putting in it is, as I just said, the event overview. This could be the mission or the impact of the nonprofit. This could be the evening program outline or the purpose of the fundraising. The audience profile. This could include, you know, who your donors are, previous donors or sponsors, board members, philanthropists, your corporate supporters, your community leaders. Historical data, you know, amount that you've raised in previous years, the number of attendees you're expecting, any press or media coverage that you have, any returning sponsors. Brand rub alignment, you know, highlight your values like the generosity or the community leadership or social responsibility. And then, of course, what are your real estate options that you're going to include? There's a few ways that you can structure your packages. A lot of us see these tiered packages: bronze, silver, gold, bronze, silver, gold. You see that all the time. And, you know, and tells what you get for each sponsored package. It's set price, it's set deliverables or benefits, set number of tickets, set number of things, it kind of tiers up from the bottom up. I tend to prefer the a la carte method. So you're putting a price on all of the sponsorship real estate that we discussed. So maybe it's sponsoring the welcome lounge is $3,500, or paying for the branded wellness kits is $1,200, or getting a stage mention is $500. This gives the sponsors an opportunity to kind of pick and choose what makes the most sense for their brand. Then if I say, oh, I'm going to buy the welcome lounge for $3,500 and the stage mention for $500, that's $4,000 total. Well, now that's just landed me into the brand bronze tier, which unlocks some additional benefits associated with that tier. So I think that way you really are giving your sponsors more leverage to pick and choose what makes the most sense, instead of just kind of a pigeonhole of the exact tier options. So don't just list these benefits, bundle them strategically by offering, you know, escalated value across clear tiers, or allowing tailored selections via the a la carte model. You empower your sponsors to choose precisely how they want to engage, ultimately encouraging deeper investment. And I know, Lori, you were going to talk about, we kind of hit on this before, but using Auctria to leverage this sponsorship.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is a repeat. You can go ahead and put those items as for sale items on your website. People can just grab the ones that they want. And it's always eye-opening talking to Alex, especially when she's talking about the a la carte. You can put those up as for sale items. You can mark them as a sponsor. That way they can upload their logo at that point in time. And then it would show. It's all streamlined throughout the system. So thank you, Alex.
Great. And I actually provided some additional kind of ideas from brainstorming here. So, if you're hosting an event, you could do like a branded champagne wall or a signature drink station. This would be very elegant, photo worthy. This could be sponsored by a beverage or a luxury brand. Maybe you have an event that could use a content studio or an interview booth. So the sponsor would support mini video interviews or podcasts filmed during the event. And as you can see, you would have their logo, included with what's going on. Some other ideas, a wellness activity sponsorship. Could be morning yoga or mindfulness sessions or sound healing backed by health and wellness brands. And of course, you're going to have their logo associated with, maybe even in the naming rights of it. At a fun run, a 5K, you could have hydration or refuel stations, branded water stops, fruit bars, protein bars, drinks, etc., like all of that. And that could all be a great for activation space. For naming rights, as we discussed before, this could be the Hope Gala presented by XYZ company. Or as we said, the stage could be its own sponsorship, different from the gala itself. Maybe you just want to sell the rights to the stage. For a wellness retreat, maybe it's just the essential oil bar is presented by a specific company. Again, doesn't need to be an oil company. It could be anyone that really just wants to have that one-on-one interaction and give that special touch up, plus up to your guests. I mean, I might do it as direct consulting, just like, hey, this is my special nod. I want everyone to have this essential oil bar experience. It didn't make sense for me to be there talking about sponsorship and handing out flyers, but I want to be a part of the event and add an experiential element. The finish line at a 5K run could be sponsored by someone, and they could have the medal moment. As far as marketing assets, you could have printed program and sell ads to sponsors. The step and repeat backdrop could be a place to have paid sponsorships if you're willing to put some of the small logos around your actual event logo. You could have the attendee badges and lanyards. Oftentimes I do events where the actual badge is sponsored by one company and the lanyard itself has a company, so you're wearing their name around your neck. So that's sold to two different sponsors. You could also have event app integration, and I believe, Lori, you guys have this opportunity as well.
So you can recognize your sponsors on your event website. So your event website is always going to be mobile friendly, and people will also see it on the bidding app. So if you are doing mobile bidding in the room, people are going and scanning a QR code. You can put those sponsors either at the top, either at the bottom. You can pin them to the top, pin them to the bottom by putting them in the footer or the header. The more exposure they have, obviously, you can charge a higher rate for those.
So moving into some ideas for direct engagement, you could have award presenter roles. The sponsors could present the community impact or donor recognition awards. You could have fireside chats moderated by a sponsor. So they're not really the panelists, but they're the moderator. So they're still getting that recognition and kind of stage time. You could have a sponsor doing guided activities. They could be leading at your retreat the guided meditation, or again, back to the fun run. They could be doing the finish line announcements, or they could be doing raffle drawings at the finish line. I thought it was really funny, and I should have done a slide for this. I was at a sales awards for my husband, and this is for, a regular company sales awards, but they basically sold sponsorships for the raffle drawings that kind of broke up the monotonous sales awards presentations throughout the night, because we sat through about 2 hours of, rookie of the year and you sold the most cases here and da. So because he works for a food company, they had gotten food companies to sponsor each of the raffle prizes. Well, his name was called, and he won the Chicken of the Sea $250 prize. And I thought we were going to have a cupboard full of tuna fish for years. They had just gotten the naming rights, and it was actual $250, Visa gift card. But when they announced it, it was the Chicken of the Sea raffle prize goes to. So what a great idea. Like, they got it sponsored. They didn't have to pay for all these raffle prizes. The guests at this dinner loved it. I'm one of them. It was fabulous. So, there's so many little ways to integrate sponsors into your events. I know when we went through the real estate, we talked about in-kind donations. I'm getting a little lag. Is it going to change? Let's see. I'm stuck on page 56.
Yeah, where do you want to go? 57?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's 57. Did you want me?
Okay. I'll go back.
Okay,
here we go. Now it's working for me. In-kind donations. We talked about, before you could get the floral donations or the wine and spirits, but also think about snack breaks, maybe the actual gift bags, because those do cost a lot. It's always a struggle of the events I work on. Like, we have to give a gift bag to all the guests, but who's going to give the bag? Who's going to print the bag? So sponsor, lean into that. Fun would be creative supplies donated by, it doesn't have to be, again, not that specific type of donor, but any lifestyle brand that wants to kind of elevate the experience for your guests could have their logos on these items. Same with at a fun run, you're going to need your hydration, you're going to need your hats, your shirts, all of that could be sponsored or have sponsor inclusions. So then once you are you've sold your pitch was great, you've sold your sponsors in, the sponsor's ready to sign on the dotted line, you need to do a contract or even a basic letter of agreement. Why? Because you need to cover your blank. You just want to make sure it's all in writing. And this should include everything that was discussed and promised in the sales process. So you'd be clear on your activation space, your comp tickets, your credentials, all the marketing deliverables, how many social media posts do they get. Then of course, all the legal jargon should be included as well, but I'll let you discuss that portion with your legal attorney. So contracts protect all parties involved. Whether you're hosting a two-day retreat, a gala, a multi-day conference, or a major festival, clear sponsorship communication and management is key to satisfied sponsors and increased sponsor retention. Sponsors need to know all the deadlines. They have to submit their logos, they have to submit ads, they have to provide their certificates of insurance, they have to turn in their activation plans, they want to get, how do they get their comp tickets, where do they pick up their staff credentials, what are the production forms due, fact sheets, when do they load in, load out. It is a lot of information to track, and sponsors need to have clear information on what is provided, when they should show up, what's going to be at their 6-foot table when they arrive. Will it have a tablecloth? Will it have a back table? Is there a room for storage? Do they have power? Do they need ice? So this could be handled by your internal team, but as you can see, it's a lot of moving parts to manage. So once you get started, booking in a multitude of sponsors with lots of deliverables to keep track of, I highly recommend you have like a dedicated sponsor manager, someone on your team, or someone that you hire to act as the liaison between the event management and the sponsors. This is just is it freezing again? Or is it just...
No, I saw it. Wait, did you have your chart up?
Yeah. It's not showing for me.
It's showing for me.
Okay. So this is just a snapshot of one event I manage for over 20 sponsors. And this is me tracking, in green, it's when things have been turned in. In yellow, we've had a discussion, but I'm still waiting for them to turn it in. In red, they haven't turned it in yet. And it's like all my sponsors are across the top. All the deliverables are down the left-hand side. And I'm even keeping track of every time I email them or have a call, etc., etc. So the sponsor manager literally acts as the direct point of contact on site to not only answer any questions, but also make sure that the sponsor reps feel welcome and appreciated throughout the event. As an event host, you're most likely managing all the other event staff, you're managing the guest needs, you're dealing with any issues that are popping up during the event. Oh, all of a sudden the AV guy needs you to look at something on the stage. Well, the sponsor manager is locked in on your sponsors, ensuring that they have white glove concierge service and they're on site from load in to load out, and they can jump in to, I've sorted through inventory, I've helped with loadout, I've jumped behind a bar because the staff wasn't there yet to start opening their cases and chilling their wines and then uncorking the bottles to get it ready for when they tend to walk in 5 minutes before the event starts. Next, I say, sponsor thank yous and recaps are an absolute non-starter. You have to send an email to your sponsors, send a handwritten note, send a carrier pigeon. I don't care. They need a thank you as soon as possible. This is for some sponsors, this may be a major part of their marketing budget. This might have been a lot of their staff that was on site. This is a big deal for them, and it may help make your event happen. I also think it's really, really important. So you got to send your thank you, but you also need to schedule a recap call. This should include maybe, the event host or the production, someone from the production team if needed, the sponsor manager, and then the sponsors to really get all their feedback. I work with sponsors that are, sometimes doing summer tours where if I'm working a music festival, I might be one of 6 music festivals that they're sponsoring. So they're seeing a lot of events, and it's really cool when you're on a call and you talk through your event and how everything went and what worked, what didn't work, maybe what would you change for next year. But then all of a sudden they're like, and we noticed your event did this and we haven't seen that at any other event. Or, hey, at another event, they had someone managing the compost station and it really encouraged recycling. And it's like, they give some really good feedback that then you can use, just for your event as a whole. It's also really important to send a general recap to your sponsors. And this can be, this was a basic one sheet for a music festival. So we gave them the total attendance, we gave them some media impressions. This had the gender breakdown, the geographic breakdown of where people were from, and the general age. If that's all you have, or even not this much, it's great. Something that just shows them some ROI for what they were a part of. If you can, let's dive into some specific recap for your sponsors. So, we gave the sponsor a little snapshot of their logo that was on the website and told them how many logo impressions there were and how many times their logo was clicked. We give them recaps of their dedicated email blast. So, this particular sponsor was part of an email that went out to 319,000 attendees. It was opened 53% and had a click rate of 2.87, which is actually good. Seems like it wouldn't be, but it's great. So they get a little snapshot of everything, including their social media, how many impressions for their post, etc. So I know that was a lot. I have put actually a lot of this into an ultimate pre-pitch bundle, and it's like 50 questions you should ask yourself before you write your sponsorship proposal. Comes with a fillable workbook and more of all of those samples that I showed before, plus of, some sponsorship samples of what you could offer. So I'm doing a major discount for you guys, 50% off. So it's only $25 to get this bonus. And if you are willing to just give a quick little scan with the QR code or go to talk.ac/Alex Durant, just fill out what you thought about this talk before we dive into some Q&A. And by filling that out, you will get the bundle code emailed directly to you, which would be awesome. I would appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, and good luck with your sponsorship synergy.
Bye-bye.